Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. I'm David Blain, your host for the show. Thank you for joining us today. During this segment, we're going to talk about the new taxes that are coming under Obamacare. During the previous two shows, we talked a little bit about the market and some buy and hold things. If you missed the first two segments, head on over to the website www.dlblain.com, and we post archived copies of the shows there. You can also read about me and my firm and what we do for folks. But during the remainder of this show today, we want to talk about the taxes that are coming. There's a number of taxes. A lot of them are very complicated. They're very confusing. They have different numbers, different thresholds, phase-ins, phase-outs. And I realize sometimes you need to see this laid out in front of you, but I'm going to do my best over radio and TV to explain it to you. Okay. So the first thing is the big one. Well, now the 3.8% surtax on investment income when your income is over $200,000 or $250,000 married filing jointly. So I realize that this is not going to apply to everyone, but it's significant to understand that it is an additional tax on people earning more than $200,000 or $250,000 a year. And so some of this may affect you someday, even if it doesn't today, but it certainly may affect, the small business owners in your community and some other things. So, but the other thing that I find more troublesome is this tax levies Medicare tax on income that has typically not been taxed previously. And so I don't want to get wrapped up in the percentage or the dollar amount, the thresholds. The point is that this is bringing into the fold for Social Security or for Medicare tax types of income that have never been taxed before. And that's significant, is that we see the federal government continuing to reach out and taxing more and more types of income for Medicare. Now, obviously, we have a health care cost problem in America, but whenever you see these taxes start to creep in, even if you don't meet the thresholds, watch out, because they'll eventually make their way down to you. So anyway, what is investment income? It is defined as dividends, interest, rent, capital gains, annuities, house sales above the threshold, partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. So, for example, let's say you're in the business of renting homes. Let's say you have a portfolio of 10 or 15 rental homes or commercial properties, and that's what provides your income. Well, typically, this has not been considered earned income and not subject to Social Security and Medicare. Well, this new tax imposes 3.8% tax on that. The same thing with interest and dividends. So you went out, you earned a salary or something, you paid Social Security and Medicare on that money, and then you decided to take what was left over and invested in a rental property or invested in a dividend-paying stock. Now you're going to get taxed another 3.8% surtax on that investment income. So two things. Number one, you're seeing increased double taxation of your money, number one. And number two, starting to tax types of income that have never been taxed before. The other surtax that comes in on Medicare for those making, once again, more than $200,000 or $250,000 filing joint on their regular salary. So currently people pay 1.45% Medicare on their wages. Their employer pays 1.45%, or if you're self-employed, you get to pay the whole 2.9% yourself. Now next year, and this starts in 2013, the Medicare bill will be 2.35%. So once again, a 0.9% surtax on Medicare. The next thing that's going to come into play is the flexible spending account contribution will be capped at $2,500. Now, you may not even know what a flexible savings account is, but larger employers typically have these where you can put pre-tax money into this account, and you can spend it on notably health care, or some allow for daycare and other things, but most people put money aside, pre-tax money, for their health care. Now this limits the amount. Previously there was no amount. So if you figured out, well, I think I'm going to have out-of-pocket costs of $5,000 for medical care, you could have that set aside pre-tax. Well, this law limits it now to $2,500. The itemized deduction hurdle for medical expenses is now going up to $10,000. Right now, expenses over $7,500 per year are deductible. Next year, that goes to $10,000. Once again, a lot of the medical costs and things like that are very confusing, and if you're an individual or self-employed, or you get your health insurance from a large company, the rules are all totally different. This widens that differential to an individual that they cannot deduct their health care until it exceeds $10,000. The penalty on non-medical withdrawals from an HSA is now 20% instead of 10%. I don't have a problem with that, but that's twice the penalty that's imposed on early withdrawal from annuities or IRAs or things like that. Once again, the tax code, for whatever reason, does not apply these type of things uniformly. It's just, it's ridiculous. A tax of 10% on indoor tanning services, that's been in place for a while, but don't forget about those tanning booth taxes. This is a big one, especially for some of the unions and things like that. A 40% tax on Cadillac health care plans starting in 2018. This is way out there, 2018, but employers are paid for all or most of these massive health care plans for their employees, get 40% tax on that. Of course, you've heard a lot about this. The penalty for those who don't buy health insurance, this is going to phase in 2014 to 2016. It'll raise from $695 per person to about $4,700 per person. There's also going to be a tax on medical devices costing more than $100. This is paid by the medical device manufacturers, 2.3% excise tax on medical equipment, such as hip replacements and things like that. Well, we're running out of time here. I could go on and on. There are some other taxes that are involved. You'll have to tune in next week, and we'll try to cover some more of these. So for All Things Money, I'm your host, David Blain. I hope that you will tune again next week.
The proceeding was a paid program. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of WNBU and Inner Banks Media.